Hello and welcome to this week's live. I am here as I normally am every week in the Facebook group Women Healing from Emotional Abuse with Power, Passion, and Pleasure, and posting also to YouTube. So if you see me looking over here, I have two cameras going. So hopefully more people can catch this video because I'm really excited about today's topic. So my name is Ailsa Kepi. I'm a somatic coach in intimacy and relationships, as well among other things, soon to be published author. So if you're keeping up with my Facebook posts, you're gonna see some. My new book is coming out soon. By the Light of the Crescent Moon, which is a memoir of my time in an abusive relationship, but also in a different religion, living in a different country. It's kind of a not quite eat, pray, love sort of storyline, but somewhat along those lines. And I'm really excited about that coming out in August. So keep up to date with my social media. You can find me at pleasureforhealth.com, Pleasure for Health on Facebook and Instagram, and some other. I have a YouTube channel as well. So let's start with looking today at the topic. And this was actually raised by somebody in my Facebook group, brought up the fact that, it's you keep trying to break up or get out of your bad situation if you've gotten to the point that you realize that you're not living your best life, you're not free, you're not doing what you really would love to be doing in this life, in your current relationship or in your current circumstance. And so you've realized that, which is actually a big step. And now, you've made either multiple attempts or you're trying to leave that situation and start something new. And you want to have a different relationship, obviously. You don't just want to jump out of the frying pan into the fire, which happens more often than not if we haven't made some really key shifts in our mindset, in our psyche, in our soma, with our body, in our old belief system. We're actually not going to have a different experience even if we leave our current relationship. So I just thought this was a great topic because it actually speaks to something that as human beings, in our lifetime we actually do. We actually have to leave home. And I say it in quotation marks, leave home, as a metaphorical kind of concept, because many of us, well, pretty much all of us, leave home on a functional level. We leave our house, we don't live with our parents anymore. But have we actually left home? Have we actually grown up? Have we actually taken on our own identity? Or are we just living the same roles that our family of origin maybe kind of put us in or gave us? And, if you believe, as I do, that we have a soul purpose, that we come into this lifetime with something to do in this world, like a mission or a soul purpose, or however you want to call that, just being stuck in our quite often dysfunctional family patterns is not going to have that happen. We're not going to be living our best life. We're not going to be, moving out. We're actually not going to ever leave home. And many people never do leave home. Metaphorically speaking, they're still living out their family's patterns, their family's rules. And so, basically they're stuck in this same revolving door. And that is where I speak to many women when they're at that stage in their life and they realize that they're just having this cyclical experience of the same types of relationships over and over again, the same type of abuse. Maybe it's getting actually worse. They're not getting anywhere. They're more tired. They maybe have kids now. They've got health issues because of this chronic kind of trying to please or trying to fit into a mold that isn't really you. So this is actually about leaving home. I know that wasn't what you expected, but I'm just going to read a quote. This is from Making Our Lives Our Own from Marilyn Mason. It's quite an old book, but still completely relevant to our journey as women. So for those who have grown up in dysfunctional families, these invisible interfamilial bonds carry deeply ingrained messages that continue to operate in the patterns of our adult relationships. I remember thinking the time would come when all the threads in this cable would be neatly severed, like cutting through a telephone cable. But even the deaths of our parents and siblings fail to sever the bonds. We carry the relationships within us. So leaving home psychologically is a lifelong process. Well, it can be a lifelong process. I think, we leave home in so many levels, but I think we can actually do it quicker than than a lifetime if we are aware and conscious of what we are doing. And that is what I love to help women. I love to help people with. Specifically, I have programs mostly for women, but it's the same process in a lot of ways. Men sometimes go through the process a little bit different. You might have heard the hero's journey for men. For the male archetypal hero's journey is a little bit different. There's also the feminine hero's journey, which is kind of a journey within. And I like the idea that there's kind of two hero's journeys to go on, perhaps more now that we have not just a binary kind of thing. Maybe you have your own hero's journey. So I don't want to genderize this too much, but mostly I work with women just because in our culture, we're so conditioned to do what we're told. We're so conditioned to stay at home until we are married off. That unfortunately is still the norm for many people my age anyway. I think it's slowly changing, but this is we're still trying to work our way out of our old beliefs. And as long as we're content to stay within the confines of the memories, recollections, and conclusions about our family that formed out of our childhood experiences, we are destined to continue to enact our childhood position of no choice, a no choice reactor to the forces out, external forces, conscious or unconscious in our families. Now that's a lot of big words to basically say that we're living unconscious patterns until we make them conscious. And this, especially if we had a dysfunctional family, then that can just carry on in our dysfunctional relationships later on. And, we often, part of growing up in a dysfunctional family was we had rules to live by. And so, we would try to keep to those rules. And if the rule was you did whatever dad said, or you always loved your mom even if she wasn't really there as a mother, it wasn't okay to talk about her badly. Everyone was like, you have to say nice things about her. Maybe that was the rule. We often have rules about our parents that makes it seem like so we move out into the world and we think we've left home, but we haven't really. We end up in another relationship that often is abusive as well, in similar ways to our family of origin. And then when we want to move out of that relationship, which is the place where most, I see women coming to me to work in my programs, when we get to that point, we're actually having to do a double leave, like a double divorce, or however you want to phrase that, because we actually have to divorce our current abuser, and we have to leave behind our abusive patterns that we may have picked up in our family of origin. So it's a double duty, and that is why often it is so difficult to do. It's so difficult to do because we're not just dealing with the present moment. We're not just dealing with our current abuser. And lots of people erroneously say to us, like, why can't you just leave him? Why can't you just walk out? Why can't you get away from her? Whoever it is. Why do you always have to go back? Like, you go back because this is a bigger deal for you than what other people see. Because a lot of what's going on is underneath the water, the whole iceberg kind of metaphor, everything's under the surface. And you grew up in a way that kind of molded you into the perfect person to end up in an abusive relationship. And here you are. And so now you want to leave that. So you actually have to leave behind all the patterns and family beliefs and rules as well. So this is where we're at. How do we do that? And how can we, you might just be listening to me now going, come on, Elsa, like what? How am I supposed to leave all that behind? That's a lot of shit. And you're right. It is. And, there's many ways that we work with that, especially, if you work with me in my programs, you'll find that there are specific things and exercises and activities we do to help you get back to what I call your soul mission, your inner path, the thing that makes you truly unique. Like, why were you born into this planet on a bigger level? Not just to follow out your dysfunctional family patterns. That would be, an unfortunate, missed opportunity, I guess I would say. We have an opportunity with this lifetime to actually do something that is, our soul is growing and changing. And so we come into this world, I believe, with a mission. And, I've said in many of these videos that I think that our mission, especially as women that have been through abuse, we have an extraordinary mission. I believe many of us have an extraordinary mission in this particular time, in the world, especially in the Western world, where we, thank goodness, are not dealing with life or death situations every single day. We however bad it is, we usually have somewhere to live, food on the table, and things like that. So it allows us to have a little bit of space to actually do some of this soul work. So I think as Western women that have been through a really hard time and that have to come to terms with this type of psychological and emotional abuse, we have a mission. My mission, which I've worked for years to really define and, continue to define and work with, is to help empower, the feminine, to empower, it's not even just women, but empower that feminine energy in our world, so that we're more balanced in our outlook. So, that's my overarching goal. But as that comes down into specific things, I've got this wonderful group on Facebook where many of you have joined, where we work with helping you heal from emotional abuse, because I want to empower more people to also do their mission, because I think many of us have similar missions. We want to, help with child abuse. We want to raise better, raise our sons and daughters and queer gendered children to realize how to work in the world without all this psychological bullshit. And so, we need to do that growth ourselves. We want to change the way that the patriarchy has set up structures in our society. Everything like from just running a family with love and compassion to, running a country and running a world that is not tied up in greed and corruption. So, I think that we really have a place in this. So whatever your soul journey is what is going to take you to that place of growing up and actually leaving home, like leaving those old patterns. And how do you get to that? You might look at me also and go, well, I don't know who I am. I don't know what I want to do. And sure, that's, very common to not know. I'm going to drink some coffee here because we're going to launch into how do we know what we're really here for. And so without going into specifics right now, because these are the kind of nitty gritty tasks that I really like to dig into personally with you when you work with me. But on an overarching scale, what we look at is those little sparks of passion, those little interests, those things that you did especially when you were a kid, but things that have followed you through your life, you might not even realize. But as you work with me or we work together on looking at your life and pulling out those little, it's like tracking. I love the idea of tracking, right? We're kind of reverse tracking to find out what our soul mission is, and we want to look for those tracks in the mud, right? We want to find like was really my soul mission in life. Where, before I got sideswiped or I got stuck in the mud or drowned in this like lake next to the path and I got off the path, I was pushed off the path, I was held captive, whatever it is that you feel happened to you. But there are tracks there that we can follow, that we can go back and look at, and we can pull out those threads of who you really are, who your soul was. It might be, for me personally, there were things like I loved colors. I loved all different colors. I loved to paint colors. I painted rainbows. I always wanted to wear as many colors as possible all at once. And this was something that, I love. It just enlivens me. And I then later on, I would, go to art galleries or just enjoy color. And it still enriches my life today and has worked into my, probably something like, even on a symbolic level, I love to work with bringing together different types of beliefs and bringing it together. I love collating all of that into, bringing all the different perspectives together, if you will. So there's something of that I could trace in my life that I loved. I always loved to write. I wrote poems and I wrote, stories, and it was a solace for me when I was feeling, that I didn't fit in school, or that I, didn't have friends, or all the things we go through. I've been trying to write my memoir for probably 25 years, and finally, exciting this year to have it be actually happening. But, I always enjoyed that, and that's been part of my mission and something that I've honed as a skill and that kind of thing. So we can go back and, I've worked with women and they were like, oh, I always like to make people laugh. Or I've worked with women that were just like, I always really felt drawn to children. I just wanted that, I felt good around children. I wanted them to be happy. I wanted to play, do games and stuff. And she was a teacher, and, we worked on that. There's women I've worked with that really wanted to work in women's shelters and help other women out of that crisis mode that we get in right at the beginning of leaving an abusive relationship. And so, these types of little threads we can find as we track our past history. And this is aside from all the overlay of family rules and family dysfunction and all of that. We actually have these little nuggets of who we really are inside us. And so we just peel back some layers enough to find that and to trust ourselves, and then we can kind of work from there, building ourselves up. And this kind of building ourselves back up is how we move forward. And when that momentum gets to a certain point, then we're ready to leave. Then we know, yes, I can do this because I have this passion, I have this desire, I know a little bit about what my mission is. And sometimes we can do it within that relationship. It's very rare. It's very rare, I would say, if not impossible, to live your best life mission within an abusive relationship, because it takes so much energy. It takes so much energy just to survive in that abusive relationship. So I've tried it. And, I was just getting drained lower and lower and lower and lower, financially, emotionally, physically, everything just drained. So once I left, it took, I had to gain momentum, first of all, on my own within the relationship. Once I got to a certain point, I could leave, and then I went back for a bit, and then I left, and then, we all know this cycle. Finally, you've got enough momentum. The rock has been rolling, gathers enough moss to actually keep going down the hill, and then you've got it, and then you're out, and then you can really start living your soul mission in the world and keep working with that. And there's much to do with keeping our momentum going, because we can get stuck in many ways. We can get stuck in many ways in this whole process. But having that, that momentum, that building up, and then, having enough capacity to leave, to create our own life, to work, moving forward. Perhaps then at a certain point, you've got enough momentum and you know yourself enough that then if you have another relationship, you have a different experience. And then that starts adding to your momentum. Like my partner now is a wonderful support for what I'm doing in life. And I met him in the training that one of the trainings that I did post leaving my abusive relationship. So we can keep gathering momentum and we can actually leave. But that gathering, it requires certain steps. And one of the steps is to realize that you're being abused, get in a support group like this one, start, learning about it, gather some enough momentum, perhaps reach out, book a call with me, let's talk, let's see what the next step is, do a little course, do a bigger coaching sessions, like get some, momentum, get some, skills behind you so that as you move forward, you can keep moving forward with that kind of momentum and you can actually leave and, find your soul journey and your destiny and really consciously move towards that. So, I just wanted to speak to that because it's so difficult when you're in it, when you're in the mud on, you've gone off the path and you're stuck in the mud. It's so difficult to see clearly where you're going. And it's so difficult to imagine who you are that could even go anywhere. So this is an invitation to say, I know how you feel. I know what it's like to be stuck there. I know what it's like to not know who you are, to not know what you want, to not even know if you can survive without this, relational dysfunction that you're in, all of those unknowns. There's a lot of unknowns. There actually are. And so, having the support to move beyond that is super important. And you'll know when you're ready because that niggling little voice that keeps coming back, in your dreams or when you first wake up, you're like, I know I'm not meant to be here. I know I'm not meant to take this crap anymore. I know I'm not meant to, work so hard for someone who doesn't appreciate what I'm doing. I know I'm not meant to be here anymore. If you start listening to that voice, the next steps will show up. The next steps will show up. And all you have to do is do that next step. And then the next step will show up and the next one and the next one. So, you don't have to make huge changes, but take that next step and see where it leads. Because, I know what it's like to be stuck. I know what it's like to feel defeated. I know what it's like to not have hope anymore. And, we have to get beyond that because we have important work to do. We have a soul journey to do in this life. I feel, if you don't join me in that belief, that's okay. But you've got to find something that you love and that you're impassioned about enough to make those changes. It might be your kids. It might be your life mission. It might be, you just might want to prove it to your family that you can do this. I don't care what it is, but you got to find something to make that first step. And then as you go, you're going to find out that there's more and more to you. There's more to you than just being in an abusive relationship, taking on somebody else's pain. There's more to you than that. I absolutely know it. So if this is resonating with you and, I know we're in strange times and it might seem a weird time to start this kind of journey, but why not? Why not start now when the world is going crazy? Let's do that feminine inner heroine's journey and go inwards and pull out our real self and let's, move forward in that way. Even if we can't move in the outer world, we can definitely move in our inner world. So, reach out, book a call with me. Let's talk. That's absolutely free for anyone in my Facebook group. And you can book a call with me. We'll talk for an hour and we'll get really clear about where you're at in your journey and what are the obstacles. Where are you getting pulled off the path? What are those patterns? And how can we put you on the path again? How can we get you passionate and excited and hopeful again, because the world needs us. All right. Thank you to those who joined. Hi, Mary, Laura, Tracy. Yes, I'm staying safe and doing well. I hope you all are too. Thank you so much for watching live. I'm hoping to do, jump on here live now and then, even with when I haven't had time to create an event. So watch the group, post topics in here that you'd like me to talk about. Let's create some momentum in the group, and love to you all today, and talk to you all soon.